I want to start by asking about my favorite, well, maybe my favorite comedy bit I've seen this year, which I've watched like 25 times. I'm hooked on this, which is, it's a little bit of a departure where you play a character. You play the sort of bro version of Billy Eichner, right? Which is, it sounds like people have seen this. It's a lightning round, and it ends up at a tailgate at Wicked, right?
Yeah, we go tailgating in traditional football style, but we did it before a performance of Wicked. Yeah.
So where did this come from?
That is actually a segment that I did that I thought of over 10 years ago that we filmed and showed at a performance of my live show, Creation Nation, which I did with my friend Robin Taylor, who I think is here. And he's fine. Tonight is about me. No, I think, so Robin and I and my friend Dickie, who like sort of art directed that video. This is before YouTube, so it never even went on YouTube. And in that version, there was no lightning round. You know, there was just a segment for our live show where I tailgated before a performance of Little Women the musical, which was on Broadway at the time, and is no longer on Broadway. And yeah, and so we did it, and that always sort of stuck in my mind as a segment that I thought was smart and like my take on football. You know, and so this year we were thinking of doing a bro lightning round. That was my idea, and not all the ideas are mine, but I like the idea. Something wrong?
No, I was just checking the clock to see where it is.
Oh,
yeah.
You're already bored?
No.
We just started. I really like the idea of doing a bro lightning round. And so we did that, and then I thought, oh, and then I remembered that segment from years ago, and I thought, this could end there. But there's no Little Women, so we chose Wicked. We wanted a show that a national audience would know. So we chose Wicked, and yeah, and then we got Sudeikis. Jason Sudeikis does it with me.
You're playing such a specific character in that.
Yeah.
You capture a kind of like an essence of a bro in that.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's like,
well, that's always suspicious. It feels like do you have a did you spend a lot of time with Mark Wahlberg on that one? Did you? It felt like it was a Boston guy.
We go way back. He loves gay guys. I don't think he has a problem with gay people. I don't think. Whatever. Let's not get into it on Yahoo. I forgot we're streaming live on Yahoo. You know you've made it when.
Did you improvise all those lines?
Yeah, the questions, you know, sometimes there'll be questions that I know in advance, and then once I'm out there, I'm going with what feels right, and Sudeikis is contributing, and we're just doing it, and whatever works, works. Yeah.
But the other thing that made me think is that
The bro, I didn't answer your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, I guess there's a bro inside, Jason. Yeah, I guess so. I like the idea, because the regular Billy on the Street persona is so the opposite of that. And I knew I could do it, but I thought it would be fun to put in the context of Billy on the Street. Right.
But one thing that comes out is the similarities between your persona, as unlikely as this may seem, and the bro persona, this sort of belligerent aspect of a bunch of dudes together. Sort of one you equals 10 bros in terms of it. So it did make me wonder, like, were you sending up bros, or do you have an affection for that? Do you have a certain affection for them there as well?
It's like everything else on the show. It's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like there's a gay layer to it, and I mean, no, yeah, I know. I just thought it would be, you know, what I think I was, along with the other writer-producers, very strategically trying to do this season is to push the show gently into other territory, like the Gabby Giffords game. I don't think that's a game we would have played the first or second season of the show, but I love that game. That's one of my favorite games of the season. We did a game, Eddie Murphy or Mark Twain.
Right.
If anyone saw that. And that's giving, you know, there's commentary there. There's some social commentary. I'm commenting on pop culture, my own addiction to social media, and I like that. You know, it's still very silly, but there's some thought behind it. You know, it isn't just a stunt. You know.
But I mean, it feels like that this season. That it's almost like to people who thought that this was a narrow thing, you're proving that it isn't. That you
Right,
could,
and I think that was part of the bro thing too. It's like, oh, you think I'm this like flamboyant gay guy? F you. You know?
was it always going to be Wicked?
Wicked made the most sense because we wanted a Broadway show that everyone in the country would know. I mean, when I was doing the show downtown 10 years ago, we were doing it for a very niche audience. And now we do it for a niche audience, but on TV. I wanted a show that everyone would get, and also the colors. I like the colors. The colors of Wicked matched up with the New York Jets colors.
I got it.
Yeah.
But I wonder, you're really not so niche anymore, though, and now you're getting to a much bigger audience. And I wonder, do you care about the makeup of your audience?
No.
No.
I don't.
Not at all.
No, I think the people who watch Billy on the Street or Difficult People, they're people who get me. And the people who don't get me, I totally get not getting me, and I don't care.
Got it.
You know what I mean? It's for the people that get it.
But say suddenly, like you had Dane Cook's
By the way, there's no way not to sound like a pretentious during this. I hear myself. I don't like it. But what else am I going to do? I'm here to talk about myself. That's Mike Farrah laughing. He's our executive producer from Funny or Die.
When I interviewed you for a profile, you mentioned that he's a big bro.
Mike is a bro, yeah. But he's a bro, but he's like a bro with a heart of gold. Like, you know, like Mike is like a bro, but he loves gay guys. Like Mike is a big part of the reason the show exists because I was doing these YouTube videos, these Billy on the Street YouTube videos, and they started to go viral, and Mike emailed me one night out of the blue. I'd never met him before or had any contact with Funny or Die, and Mike said, I like what you're doing. If you're ever in LA, come and talk to me. And I did, and that led to the show.
Okay. When I did that story, I followed you around on one of these Billy on the Street, and what was amazing is you yell at these people, and not only would they be delighted by it, but then they would sign a release.
Yeah, everyone has to sign the release.
Well, how do you explain this? How do you explain the fact that you abuse these people, you yell at them, you call them names, and they are delighted?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think they can see something. As angry as they are, they're savvy, they're in New York, they get that it's a joke. You know, I don't know. I think there's something savvy about New Yorkers. And by the way, some people don't sign the release. Most people do. Some people don't. And I'm just banking on the fact that they'll get that it's a joke. Whether or not they think it's funny is another story. But they get that it's for entertainment purposes.
What percentage of people don't sign the release?
I honestly don't know. We've gotten pretty good. We have an amazing team of producers and PAs, like an army of people that follow me around. And they'll go up to someone and say, you know, I'm really sorry. You know, he's crazy. Like, Will Ferrell produces the show. And they explain that it's a comedy show. And they try to talk them into signing. Sometimes they just sign. Sometimes people who are really angry seemingly sign right away. Sometimes people who aren't angry at all don't want to sign just because they don't want to be on TV. You know, I don't know.
But also, in an age of these like microaggressions, people talk about people getting feelings hurt online. It feels like you're going places and not getting in trouble, right? Do you ever worry that that could change?
What do you mean, that someone's going to hurt me?
Or be hurt, get upset?
I mean, it's so silly. Like, I don't, I mean, compared to what's going on in the world, like, me like trying to kiss a girl on the cheek in a big chipmunk outfit, it's like, if you don't want to sign the release, I understand, but just letting that devastate your life, whatever.
So as you said, you know, you're not new to this. You've been doing these kind of things since 2003.
Ugh, I know.
But no, you've paid your dues, and you have a good sense, I assume, over all these years of what works and what doesn't work. Do you ever go back and look at your old videos and say like, oh, I've gotten better at this and that?
It's been a while since I looked at the old ones. It does feel like a thing that I can just do now. Like people ask me like, do you have to psych yourself up before you start shooting? No. I just do it. It's like what I do. But you don't know what's gonna work. You're seeing the stuff that we thought works. Like the chipmunk thing, I remember shooting that and then thinking, I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna end up on the show. And then when I watched it, we watched the first few clips and I thought, this can't be on the show. But then I was like, me and the other editors were like helplessly laughing in spite of ourselves. And I thought, this is a nice little, towards the end of the season, silliness where I almost got punched. But and that's kind of the conversation that takes place when we're putting the show together, but not everything works. There are things which we shoot which you will never see or know about because they weren't up to par.
What's something that you thought would work but didn't?
Sadly, if you're a diehard fan of the show, there's a guy, Mr. Singh, who did one of the funniest quizzed in the face games, like on par with Elena. Who is going to be furious that she wasn't invited to this. I'm not kidding. Furious. I'm going to publish a book of letters and emails Elena has sent me over the years. You have no idea. She complains, she wrote to one of our producers or my assistant, she complained that when I went on Colbert, the clip we showed wasn't of her. What's one thing? Anyway, Mr. Singh was a great contestant that we had on the show that I ran into and played Quizzed in the Face with second season. And as we did with Elena, we brought him back this year and shot him using him as a lifeline during a Quizzed in the Face with another contestant, the way we did with Elena, which you may have seen. It didn't work. It's not going to be on the show.
Not gonna work. Any theories why?
Mr. Singh was trying too hard to be funny this time. Elena has a weird gift where she doesn't know it's a gift. She's so unfiltered. She has a lack of self-awareness, which works perfectly for this show. She doesn't know that she's being funny. Now, sometimes Elena will try to be funny, and I'm like, Elena, cut it out. Just like be yourself. Just be yourself. And then she does, but Mr. Singh came and was like telling jokes, and it killed me, though. I really wanted him on the show, but we watched it, and we were like, no, I can't.
I love Elena, but when I first saw her, it wasn't obvious this was going to be a great character. When did you know this was had
You
legs?
don't know, again, and we took a chance. She was so funny when I first ran into her. And then we had Lena Dunham on the next season, and we were brainstorming things to do with Lena Dunham. And we had a bunch of ideas that we did with her, and then I thought, let's just try. Lena is like this kind of iconic New York type, right? But Elena is an iconic New York girl, although she's from Oklahoma, it's a whole thing. But like, Elena is an iconic New Yorker of a whole different stripe, and I thought bringing them together, I don't know. I had a gut, and then we had a cow, and like, the loser of the game had to milk a cow, and Elena ended up milking a cow, and we got into a fight about how much milk came out, and it's like a whole thing. But again, we just took a chance. But when we brought Elena back that time, and she was still funny, I was like, oh no, she's got to come back. And the people love her. I mean, like the audience loves her. I don't want to spend more time with Elena. I'm giving the people what they want.
But see, one of the things that
In the season finale, Elena goes up against her sister, her real sister, in a trivia game about their. You see this?
But
they have terrible taste. It's not my fault.
But characters like Elena remind me of the old Letterman show.
Yeah,
in that
totally.
it would show you these real New York characters. And I remember people like Harvey, or not always New York, I mean, obviously Larry Bud Melman's one, but Harvey Picar was one. And he came out and he would be curmudgeonly. But there came a point when Harvey Picar knew that his shtick was to be curmudgeonly. And
Did it stop getting funny?
people on the show said, yeah, they stopped. How does Elena, have you noticed her realizing what she's good at yet?
I don't notice it to the point where it's making me not welcome her back. If she's doing it in a very subtle way, and I don't notice it. So no, I don't notice it. Like I said, sometimes I can tell. I'll be like, Elena, thanks for coming back. Thanks for having me. How are you, Elena? Then she'll go into some spiel. which I can tell she thought about in advance. Usually about the Republicans and how much she hates the Republicans, and we always cut that out, or I'll just be like, all right, Elena, fine, okay. And then once she gets out of her system, I know then I have Elena, the real Elena, and that's the stuff that you see.
I see. What kind of people are you looking for to stop? Is there a kind of person, or is it random?
No, I've learned, like, it's a great study in Don't Judge a Book by its cover. Because I go up to people thinking they're going to be great, and they have nothing to say, or they're shy, or they're not game. Then I go up to someone, like an older lady who I think won't know what I'm talking about if I ask her about, Lady Gaga on American Horror Story or something. And and it just so happens they saw Lady Gaga on Good Morning America, and they have a ton to say about it. So I've learned, like Elena, you never know. You just never know.
How have New York's street people, strangers, changed since 2003?
I don't think they have. I don't think they have. I think New Yorkers are always New Yorkers. I think maybe 2003 we were still a little close to 9/11, and so like there was a slightly different vibe about shooting downtown and that type of aggression. Aren't you glad I brought up 9/11 tonight? But I don't know. It's like there's such a wide variety of people you can't overgeneralize, really.
Right.
Gay guys are still gay,
But you also you stay in the same neighborhoods for the most part. Like you've never been to Brooklyn, right?
We shoot the obstacle courses in Brooklyn, but not the going up to people.
So why not spend more time in Brooklyn?
Why spend time in Brooklyn? I grew up in Queens. I've done my outer borough time. And also, there's just a wide variety of people in Chelsea or the West Village, and a wider variety than I think you're going to get in certain neighborhoods in Brooklyn. Also, it's a schlep. I don't want to go there.
Could you not do this show in Detroit or Chicago?
Not if I wanted to live.
Now, has anyone ever punched you?
No. That guy
Yeah.
is one of the only ones that ever put his fist up like that. And I think that if I went in for it, he would have punched me.
Huh.
And I don't think that guy would have cared that there are cameras around and like security and stuff. But one old lady slapped me across the face in my YouTube days.
Really?
Yeah, I asked her some question that involved blowjobs, and she slapped me across the face.
And walked away.
Yeah.
And what was your reaction to that?
I loved it. Are you kidding me? I'm so grateful.
So,
I knew that would go in the video.
So one of the great things about your career is that you haven't followed a kind of traditional comedy route. You didn't go to UCB and SNL.
That's not true. I went to UCB. I took all the classes, but I was a latecomer to UCB. I was not someone. I watched stand-up comedy as a kid. I watched it, but I was not Aziz saying, "Oh my God, get me." This is my Aziz impression. Get me on a stand-up stage immediately.
Right.
I never thought about doing that.
But you didn't become famous going through the SNL route.
I didn't become famous.
That's not true.
Borderline.
You were in theater. You were in
Yeah.
Ars Nova. These places that there isn't a community of comedy people.
There are, but it's our own kind of comedy.
Well, explain it. Is there an advantage? Are there advantages and disadvantages to coming through that route?
Yeah, I think there were. The advantages were I was not influenced too heavily by other improvisers or other comedians, and I was in a place and around people, out of my friends who are here and at Ars Nova, who really embraced my voice and wasn't telling me to become straighter, become quieter, become less New York. Lauren won't like this, Lauren doesn't like that. No, but really, I never auditioned for SNL.
Right.
I sent in a tape to be a Daily Show correspondent, never heard back. To do Man on the Street for the Daily Show, never heard back. I met Jon Stewart a month ago or so at Colbert.
Huh.
He was there that night, and he came up and he was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan." I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And look, I love those guys. There was a part of me that really wanted to be part of that world. Right. SNL, I don't know if I'm, sure, but I don't know. For some reason, SNL, I was never like, oh, I have to be on SNL. A lot of people feel that way. I didn't feel that way. Daily Show, Colbert, those are my guys. I love Stephen Colbert. I mean, this is the greatest, So I wanted to be in that group. I was kind of an outsider looking in. but there are advantages to that too, like you're saying, you know. So I guess advantages are I really was able to be me. Disadvantages, it took me a long time to break through because I wasn't, you got to meet the people where they are,
Right.
as Obama says. And it's true, I wasn't there. I wasn't being scouted in the same way, you know, and I needed Mike Farah, like, you know, came along and was kind of like being at Funny or Die and working with Will and Adam was the closest person, you know, to bringing me into the mainstream. And but that was years after I'd been doing it.
Right, right. I mean, in a way, it seems like it's you're more isolated. It can be it's a lonelier route doing your and Joan Rivers sort of played a key role.
Yeah.
Did she? I mean, she hired you at a relatively early. No?
She gave me one of my like first TV gigs, which didn't really pan out. We did a Bravo pilot, which I've talked about a lot, but it was they wanted to do a primetime version of The View. This is 2006, right? And it was going to be. This is before Andy had his show, Cohen, and before Joan's like sort of renaissance, before Celebrity Apprentice and her documentary. And so Joan was going to do this primetime version of The View, and she was going to be the Barbara Walters, and there was going to be 4 different types of gay guys, right? Instead of 4 different types of women. And the joke I told Letterman was we realized there aren't 4 different types of gay guys. But I was one of them, and Andy Cohen was one of them. There were 2 other guys, LZ Granderson, who's now on CNN, I think, and a young, very gay publicist, a stylist. And we did a pilot, and Joan and I really got close, and Andy and I got close too. The pilot didn't get picked up, but Joan remained like a hardcore fan of mine.
Huh.
And she would go bring my DVDs, my Men on the Street videos, to Letterman and to Kimmel, and say, you have to have this guy on, you have to have this guy on, which they never did. Well, then they did, but a long time after. But she was so supportive, yeah.
So you mentioned Colbert. Colbert at some point said, you know, being in the Colbert Report character became limiting, even though he found all sorts of ways to do it. Do you ever feel like, and as I said, it seems like this season you found all sorts of different things to do with your Billy character, but do you ever feel like the Billy on the Street character is limiting?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all limiting. Anything that you do that's this specific is going to be limiting. I think any performer or actor has that. Again, I was really cognizant going into this season of trying to find ways to broaden what I'm doing on the show, which is where the bro thing happened, which is where Mark Twain happened. You know, I think the chipmunk is an acting triumph. I was very happy this season. I was really, I didn't know what people were going to make of the bro thing, you know? And I was expecting some comments like, yeah, Billy, stay in your lane, you know? And I was really happy that was very embraced, and bloggers wrote about it, and in a different kind of way than they'd written about the show before, because clearly we were trying to say something, I'm not sure what, but we were trying to say something. And I think, you know, if we do another season, which I think will happen, then we will maybe push that even more. I mean, will you do Billy on the Street forever? I mean, no, but you know, I'm enjoying it now.
What about the obstacle courses? They seem to get even bigger and also very pointed. I mean, you did, I think it was last week, you did the Escape from Scientology.
Yeah.
Have you been sued?
No.
No.
No, I think that, and props to True TV, because that was the one segment we ran before we shot it, because those are expensive, and we said before we shoot this we should talk to True TV about it and see if they're okay, and they're worried it's Scientology, and they said, oh no, we love that, go do that. A few years ago, I don't know if that would have happened, but I think Scientology's had a bad year.
Right.
And I think I'm the least of their concerns. That said, and this is true, the night that video came out online a few weeks ago, I was in LA, and in my apartment in LA, I looked out the blinds before I went to bed with a different perspective. I did.
Were there extra lawyers on that one?
No.
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 You also seem to be even more ambitious with satire. Like you have the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh, yeah.
Your Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah.
Which just as much as the Bros, you're playing a character, a different character there. Tell the origin of that. Where do you come up with this one?
I have loved the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade since I was a kid. I'm a New York kid, you know, and they would have like Broadway shows would perform at it. And I loved, you know, I'm a theater kid. And that seemed to me very theatrical. And it was like a cartoon that came to life, essentially. And I loved the balloons as a kid. I really loved the balloons. And one year my parents took me to it live, and I was like, this is too f***ing cold. It's better to watch it at home. But I loved watching it at home. And then the first season of the show, I brought it up to Julie Klausner, who writes on Billy on the Street, and to other people. And I thought, I want to do something with the parade, but there was no way we could afford to do it. We talked about maybe doing an animated version, but I was like, no, like, you need to do it. And what it was my version of the parade if I produced it. So instead of balloons of SpiderMan and Snoopy, there was a huge balloon of Rooney Mara and a huge balloon of Mila Kunis. And instead of a marching band, we had marching publicists and just things that are in my weird version of the parade in my head. And we actually did it. We had these balloons made in China. It was the story of that parade will be told one day. It's too soon. It's too soon.
Don't forget the Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, the Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that parade, again, it's so annoying to talk like this, but like, that parade made me really, really happy. And hats off to like our whole crew and Funny or Die for making that happen. It was not easy, and I think that really opened people's eyes, like, whoa, like, they're doing that they haven't done before. And I think in the 4th season of the show, that's important to do.
I mean, you're right. It looked huge. It looked really impressive. And this season, you also changed.
Oh, Katie Couric co-hosted it with me. She was amazing.
It was great. And Elena?
Stop emailing me now. I'm just kidding. Oh God, we're on Yahoo. She's on Yahoo. Hi, Katie. No, she was so good, and she told me when we were filming it. I said, how many times did you actually do this when you were at the Today Show? 12 times. And I said, you have to do it exactly that way. And she did, and it's so funny. Like, I think she's so funny in that.
What was her point of view towards doing them? Was she like, I'm sick of these?
Oh, well, you know, I think she understood it was like part of her job. I don't think she'd wanted to do a 13th.
But one of the things, some of those jokes, like the Mark Ruffalo, where you have the character from Normal Heart on the float.
Yeah.
And you also have a bit this year where you have Julianne Moore delivering speeches competing with SpiderMan in Times Square.
Yeah.
What they seem to have in common is you're taking these sort of prestige, highbrow cultural items and putting them in a mass setting.
Yes, completely.
What's the point of that? What's the idea? What's the perspective on that, doing this?
Well, that's who I am. You know, like, I'm like, I like indie things, and I like niche things, and I like theater, and Julianne Moore is my SpiderMan. And I think that there are a lot of us out there who feel that way, but we are not represented in the comedy world. Like, that's always been considered to use the same words, like niche, you're this, you're that, and it's like, f you. Like, I'm niche, I'm gonna be as niche as I want to be. You know what I mean? Like, and I was so delighted because, first of all, Julianne Moore in that segment, that's all about her and it's not about me. She's such a good actress, but while we were shooting it, I thought, man, I got Julianne Moore doing monologues from like The Kids Are All Right. Like, I don't know, like, is this only funny to me and Julie Klausner? Like, or is this funny? And I thought people would get it, but the fact that it's gonna be like tied with the Will Ferrell Christmas video and the Chris Pratt video, which are us at our broadest, let's say, for most popular video this season, really made me happy, you know, and because that's very me, like, and again, like, I think there aren't many of me on TV.
Right.
And I think it's good for someone to be, I mean, we're in like a world that is dominated by Hunger Games, Spider-Man, like Star Wars, and Star Wars is great, but like I say on the show, I don't give a about Star Wars. Like, I'm not gonna see Star Wars. I saw it as a kid. It's for kids. Like, I'm an adult. Like, you know. Yeah, so yeah, Julianne Moore is better than Star Wars, yes. By the way, Julianne Moore is in Hunger Games. You gotta make the money somehow. Still, Alice doesn't pay, you know, your bills.
So if somebody came to you and said, we want to do a Billy on the Street movie, what would your answer be?
I don't know about that. We've talked about that. That's kind of come and gone in the conversation. I just don't know, I don't know how much the world needs. I think people make too many things and they make too much of their thing. If we had a great concept that I really feel filled out, a 90-minute version, no one wants to sit anywhere longer than 90 minutes anymore. If we had a great movie idea, then sure, but I'm not going to force it to happen.
Well, it sounds to me like you, on the show, you have these incredibly passionate beliefs about culture, which I think the kind of surface joke is that, oh, it's so incongruous that you're so passionate about these minor stuff. But it sounds also some of this stuff isn't minor, and some of this stuff you deeply believe.
Yeah.
Are we to believe, when you get really pissed off about the question of which is better, Scrooged or Elf, are we to believe that that's your actual belief?
That's Billy on the show's belief in that moment. I mean, some things I do, it's a grab bag, yes, it meant a lot to me to have Julianne Moore shoving Elmo and SpiderMan out of the way, and the bros, that meant a lot to me. The Mark Twain or Eddie Murphy game really meant a lot to me. Huh. The Gabby Giffords game, I think, is telling. And I like all of that. In that instance with Will, I do love Scrooged, but I also love Elf equally, and I liked having Will Ferrell there and telling him that I didn't like his movie as much as the other movie.
Right.
That's what I liked about that particular thing.
Why did the Eddie Murphy, Mark Twain bit mean a lot to you?
Well, we took Eddie Murphy won the Mark Twain Award for American Humor this year. And sure, I was a big Eddie Murphy fan as a kid. I owned Eddie Murphy's Greatest Hits on VHS with Buckwheat and all of that. I love all of that. But it was an interesting observation we made in the writer's room that Eddie Murphy really came to prominence as a stand-up doing very, very harshly homophobic material in the 80s in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. And we went back and we read these quotes, which he's apologized for many years ago, and we include that in the segment as well. But we just thought it was very funny when you read Eddie Murphy's quotes, which are I go to San Francisco, I see these faggots coming at me with their AIDS on their lips, blah, 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 literally. And then the Mark Twain quote we would use would be it'd be a wrinkle is just a lie on your face, or whatever it was. The juxtaposition of those two really made me laugh. And also, there aren't many openly gay male comedians, and I don't make that a signature part of my act, but I don't think someone should be telling that story, Right. And I was yeah, we're gonna do that, and I thought that was a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Why did you change channels?
Why did we change channels? We changed channels because the show is an enormous amount of work. And if I was going to keep doing it, I needed to make sure that it was going to be seen. And also, that was the idea in my head. And then Fuse, which was the original channel that aired the show, got sold. So they were owned by Madison Square Garden, and then they got sold to a different corporation. And we heard maybe whisperings that the brand was going to change in some way, and we already weren't really on brand for Fuse. They were very supportive of me creatively. They never gave me any notes from the beginning. They really followed through on my vision for the show. They supported it marketing-wise more than any show they'd ever had, and I really appreciated that. But going into our 4th season, I thought, we're not going to be working with the same people. I don't know how I feel about that. And Fuse, to their credit, said, go with God, and they let us go to a place that made more sense.
Okay. Is there, you've mentioned Julie Klausner. What role does she play in the creation of this show and in the day-to-day workings of the show?
It's changed, but Julie is one of the only people that's worked on the show since the very beginning. When I didn't really know her that well before the show. We were mutual fans and all of that. We were social media friends. We'd hung out a few times, but when Fuse picked up the show, their one stipulation was that, and this was July or August, they said we needed on the air in December. And I knew from having done these YouTube videos for so long how much work how much footage you need, and to edit it all and watch it all by December, it was freaking me out. And Julie was one of the first people I called, and I said, what are you doing? I need you to work on this show. And she became like a writer-producer type, and it was very clear early on that we had a very clear sensibility. She would sort of send in assignments to me. She thought of a game, and I was so panicked and stressed out the first season of the show. I remember I was online at Rite Aid, and I was reading the writer's assignments in my phone, and I got to Julie's, and she came up with a game called Indian or Not Indian. And it was a list of celebrities, some of whom were Indian and some of whom were like Indian adjacent. And I just thought that was so funny. And it started to make me like cry with laughter in Rite Aid. And I'm the only person in Rite Aid crying with laughter, by the way. But we're just simpatico, like we're great. And now, and then we developed this friendship, and out of that came difficult people. And so now, as she should, she is very focused on difficult people. She did contribute some to this season. Her focus on difficult people, which obviously I want her to be focused on that. So we'll see how her Billy on the Street situation evolves over time. But yeah.
I mean, difficult people is a completely different thing that you're showing off. Some of your performance is actually quite quiet relative to what you're doing here. How did you have a role in the creation of that character? Did Julie come to you and say, I want to write this for you? How did that happen?
Julie came to me end of 2013 maybe and said, I wrote a pilot. It didn't have a title. It's about me and my gay best friend. It's inspired by our relationship, and they hate everyone except each other. That was how she led. And she said, would you have interest in doing it? And I said, yeah. And she said that Amy Poehler was interested in coming on as an EP. And I was like, Julie Klausner, Amy Poehler? I don't even need to read it. Like, sign me up. And then Amy Poehler thought of the name Difficult People.
Huh. And how will this new season be different?
I'm straight. The new season, which just started shooting today.
Right.
It's funny. It's Julie. It's Julie, the brilliance of what Julie always was, plus the confidence of having a well-received first season.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So get ready for that. The Billy character, whatever you want to call it at this point, is like, he's dating this season a lot, like looking for love. And there are sex scenes the world is not ready for.
Really? Sex scenes?
I'm not ready for them, but yeah.
Have they cast the people in the sex scene?
Not yet. We're working on that. I submitted a list.
Could you give us a few names?
John Goodman. Unfortunately, James Brown is dead. He would have been high up there.
So you mentioned you were a theater kid growing up, and you grew up in Queens.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in your musicals, no?
Yeah, I was a singer. I really started performing because I had a good singing voice as a kid. Huh. And when you have a good singing voice, you become like the lead in the musical.
Did you ever have voice problems yelling? Do you ever lose your voice?
Never.
Never?
No.
Do you do voice?
Not because of Billy on the Street.
Not because of Billy on the Street.
No.
Do you ever want to return to musicals?
What was that?
Do you ever want to go back and do a musical? Like if you could do one Broadway musical, what would it be?
I don't know. There are so many. Maybe one day. That's a very time-consuming, risky activity to do. We'll see. I don't know. There's a show called Falsettos I really like.
Yeah,
I'm a little young for that. In face, not in age.
Which part are you thinking in Falsettos?
I don't know. We're going to figure it out at another time.
Okay.
There's other things. I don't know. There's a lot of shows. Forum, funny thing happened on the way to the Forum. But Broadway that's a whole thing. You got to be able to sell those tickets. You got to be real famous, and you have to want to sing 8 times a week.
Right.
And I'm not quite there yet, but maybe one day.
And then, I read somewhere that your first musical was Starlight Express.
That I saw.
That you saw.
Not that I was in. I don't do roller skates, Jason. Yeah. That I saw, my first Broadway musical, yeah.
What do you think of Starlight Express?
I loved it. I did. I loved it.
I looked up the review. Frank Rich called it a confusing jamboree of piercing noise, routine roller skating, misogyny, and Orwellian special effects.
Like I said, I loved it.
So on Difficult People, there's one beautiful episode where it's about you and your Jewish family.
Yeah.
And who are more devout than you.
Late in life became devout. That's a different type
True,
of devout.
very true. I'm curious about you. Do you consider yourself a distinctly Jewish comedian?
I think I have a Jewish comedic voice without actually being much of a practicing Jew.
What does that mean?
You know, I'm like culturally Jewish.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm not the first person to say that, you
Right.
know. Yeah, there's something, but it's really a New York thing, I think, more than a Jew thing, you know.
When I was trying to think of other comedians who rely on yelling as much, the one I think of who's brilliant, like you, is Sam Kinison.
Yeah, but he's dead.
He's dead. That's true. Did you like him at all?
Huh?
Did you like Kinison?
No.
No. No interest?
No, I thought it was too much. I did. Yeah, no. I was turned off by that.
What comedians did you like growing up?
Steve Martin Short. I used to watch every George Carlin HBO special with my parents. He's dead too. But his daughter's alive and she won't let you forget that she's George Carlin's daughter. What else? A lot of people. Did I say Martin Short? I think I did.
But Don Rickles.
What?
Don Rickles.
Love Don Rickles. Joan Rivers was my first live stand-up show at the Shorehaven Beach Pool Club in the Bronx, where my parents and I would go every summer. They would have performers come in for the adults, and Joan Rivers did on a Saturday afternoon, like blazingly hot, like 90-degree day in August. Joan Rivers showed up to do a stand-up show at 3 p.m. in like a floor-length sequin gown and like fur boa or something. And my father, for reasons I still don't understand, like snuck me into that show. And I watched, and I must have been like 8 or 9. That was my first stand-up show.
Wow. So you had Michelle Obama on the show this season, and apparently in People magazine, which came out just this week, she said it was one of the cultural highlights of her year. It was being on Billy on the Street.
Very strange.
Now,
What's she gonna say? I loved Carol. I mean, you know. But no, that was insane. That was insane.
right. So what you said that she had some request to look at the questions. Is that true before?
Yeah, she's the first lady of the United States. Her team, at least, requested to see the questions in advance, and me, along with Mike and other people at Funny or Die, who had worked with the White House before, said, you know, with Billy's thing, it really relies on spontaneous answers. It can't be scripted. We can't be faking reactions. So if we're going to do this, everyone has to, on good faith, knowing that Billy knows who she is and what this is about, just be okay with not seeing the answers not seeing the questions beforehand, and she was okay with it. We sent her 5 sample questions in the spirit of what the questions would be, but none of those questions were filmed or in the video.
Huh. Was that tough to do, just to say that to the First Lady? Because I'm sure you wanted her on the show.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, I don't know. If she would have said, no, I must see the questions, maybe we would have figured out a way around that or another type of bit. I don't know, but luckily she did it, you know. And when she showed up, she said, she looked at me and she said, all right, I don't know anything. I was told I'm not to know anything. And I said, great, you're gonna be good, it's all gonna be good. And then I screamed at her about Gene Hackman. And Big Bird was there, Elena was there.
Did Elena talk to her?
Are you kidding me? Elena, the things we had to cut out of that. Elena had us, we stopped filming. We were in a supermarket in Washington, D.C., because it was about a program to encourage young kids to eat healthy that the First Lady and Sesame Street were working on together, and they brought me into it, and I brought Elena into it. And Elena, literally, the cameras were down. We were walking out the door. The First Lady is there, her press secretary, her whole team. We are all gathered around Elena as Elena is giving like a monologue about Social Security. And I was so mortified because the First Lady had already given us an hour of her time, which is a lot, right, to shoot this video. And And I looked at Michelle Obama and looking at Elena, and no one wanted to tell Elena to stop. And eventually she did, but it was really shocking.
Had Michelle Obama seen Billy on the street?
I think so.
You think so?
I mean, I think what happened is that her team liked the idea of doing a Billy on the Street video. I think they actually told me, they were like, we showed her some videos, and I said, oh, which ones? And they said, we showed her, would you have sex with Paul Rudd? Really? And I was mortified. But then she said she liked it, so.
Just to say, in a few minutes, we're going to open it up to questions. I have a few more questions for Billy, and then we'll open it up.
Has this been unbearable?
No.
All right.
You also, to go back to...
Wasn't a passionate no, by the way.
You were maybe the last person to do a remote with David Letterman.
Yeah.
He stopped doing remotes for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you went out, and he agreed to go out on the street with you and yell at people as well. What was that like, and what was he like on the street?
That was so weird. I mean, I grew up watching David Letterman. I would stay up. My parents, I always got good grades, and I was an only child. My parents didn't give a shit what else I did. So they would go to bed, and I would watch Letterman. I'm old. I would watch Letterman when he was on after Carson. And I would stay up by myself in my room and watch it on a small TV. And I don't know why he agreed to do that. It was so weird. But walking around with him, he would literally we would take a break, while the PAs are getting releases signed and, we're drinking water, whatever. We were walking on 23rd Street where we always film. David Letterman looked up at the Chelsea Hotel, and he looked at me and he said, look at that, that's great architecture. And I was like, yeah, Dave, it's the Chelsea Hotel. And I realized David Letterman doesn't get out very much. No, but he doesn't. I don't think Dave is walking around town, I think he just liked walking around. And I think one of his producers told one of my producers that it felt like what he used to do.
That's great. That's great. Do you have a favorite episode?
Of Billy on the Street?
Yeah, Billy on the Street.
Oh. No, I mean, there's things about every episode that I like, otherwise they wouldn't go in the show. There's segments that mean something to me for various reasons. I don't know, there are a lot. It's a lot.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me see if there's microphones up, so they asked me to tell you if you have a question to wait for the microphone to come. We have a gentleman right here.
Do we have to worry that there might be a day the clown died in your future?
Oh, the Jerry Lewis movie? Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, a musical. Porn. With Elena.
But it'll get released.
Yeah, everything I do finds its way on the internet. You know that.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
So what celebrity do you really, 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 really want on the show?
Meryl. We've tried. We've gotten close. Hasn't happened. It will happen. Don't you think the Julianne Moore will help get Meryl?
Yes.
Okay.
This one right there.
The microphone has a cord, and sometimes it creates these awkward moments, and the cameraman has to run with you when you're running. Does it need to be there, or? This is wireless. This one's wireless. I think they have the technology now.
Yes, it does. It does. It's part of it. I like that tension. I like awkward. By the way, this thing will really go to your head. This whole thing. Yeah, it's happening.
Okay, this lady up there, the hand raised high.
I love this segment, but I found Bro Billy very unsettling.
Bro Billy?
Yeah, I was like, it's wrong, it's not Billy, but I digress. Who creates all of your prizes? Because they're stupendous.
The prizes are out of control. We sit around as a group of writer-producers and we generate long lists of possible prizes. I go through them, I kind of whittle it down, and then we have the most kick-ass, resourceful, brilliant art team led by my friend Dickie DeBella, who's right here. Along with other people, Dickie put together this group of artists that he somehow found who were, we have a budget, but we're not SNL, and we have to be very resourceful with what we do. And it's insane, what ideas that seem great on paper, but you don't think it'll come to fruition in the right way, always do. Sometimes it's a long process, but yeah, the prizes are like one of my favorite parts of the show. And Dickie's been working with me since my live show 10 years ago. Like, Dickie put together the first tailgating video before Little Women, and is still working with me because I'm loyal. And he's amazing.
Man in the beard way up high.
This might be kind of apropos. Speaking of the prizes, Nas wasn't very happy with his prize.
No,
Talk about
Nas
that.
the rapper.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Nas was on the show a few seasons back. He's probably the one celebrity who didn't totally get it. And in hindsight, I don't think it was his fault, because I don't think he was properly prepared for me. I think he was maybe the one person who did it on the suggestion of a manager or a representative encouraging him to do it, but he never sat down to watch my videos, and he was a little taken aback. And then his prize was a bird cage, which he didn't like. And I also asked him if when Oprah comes, it's apple juice that comes out. How would you have reacted?
What was it like with Nas after the camera was off?
What you see in the thing, in the show, happens. And it's on YouTube, like, illegally, because someone posted it that's not me. No, really. But, people post everything. And so Nas literally walks away at the end of the segment and gets in his car and drives off, and that's the last I ever heard of Nas. Except he was on Madonna's recent album, and I'm like, oh, now Nas is like a friend, if you know what I mean.
Okay, this lady had her hand up for a while.
Okay, so earlier you talked about a segment that you wanted to work but then didn't end up working. Has there ever been a segment that you really loved but for whatever reason didn't think would work with, the audience, or didn't think would work with the show, that kind of thing?
We test out everything. I have two amazing editors who aren't here, unfortunately, because they're LA guys, Bill Parker and Chris Poole. They've been working on the show for years. I sit right next to them. I'm a complete control freak over everything, but I do really trust their opinion. And what we'll do, the show has this very unique process where Bill and Chris and I will cut everything. We'll cut a bunch of segments that we like, and then we will screen them for a small group of trusted people at Funny or Die. And yes, there have been a handful of occasions, I don't know if I can recall one, where I thought this is going to be amazing, and it didn't screen well. And I trust that group. And I'm never married to anything. If something doesn't get, this show's about getting laughs. So if something doesn't get a laugh, it doesn't go in the show, no matter how much it cost. We've cut some expensive things from the show, and that's just the nature of an improvised show. So I'm never, what is it? There's a saying, kill your darlings. That's what they call it. I don't know.
Yes, man in the suit, right in the front row. Yeah, you.
Wait, stand up. You wore my outfit.
No, I was thinking that.
Outfit. Yeah, you want.
Damn right I get to ask a question. So something sparked interest when you said that there aren't a lot of gay comics. And I'm wondering, you seem to have this open disdain for things that are too gay. And to what degree do you think that is responsible for your success to a broader audience? Because, you're not like Ross the intern or something like that,
How dare you? I am disdainful of everything. It's like equal opportunity. Stereotypes make me laugh. And the great thing about being one of the only openly gay guys doing comedy is that I can make fun of other gay guys. Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, they make fun of other black people in a way that I couldn't, right? But for me, it's cathartic to be able to say, oh, this guy is so gay. And I don't mean, it's obviously not derogatory. I love gay people. But I think we were a little fast to give them equal rights. I'm just kidding. But no, it's just I see gay people the way I would. I will shut up a gay person the way I'll shut up Elena or anyone. You know, I don't go into it. I certainly don't go into it saying I'm going to make fun of gay people so that I have a homophobic following. Like that. Although, not a bad idea. No, but I don't. I'm just openly disdainful. And I find it liberating that, you know, I can be out there poking fun at my own people, because that's so much a part of comedy, right? So, yeah.
You had your hand up. I'll call you in the front row, yeah.
I've heard you, I may be making this up. I think I've heard you talk about game show law. And it's like you actually, I guess, do you actually have a question logged and somebody actually has to tally the right responses in order
Yeah,
for
that's
somebody?
Doug Brady. He's over here. He's our producer. He does other things too. Yeah, Doug Brady. Oh! In the Sarah Jessica Parker episode, when she said, "I can't believe someone's keeping score," I said, "Yeah, that's Doug. That's Doug. Yeah, that's Doug." Yeah. Right.
Every like $4 question you have to like pre-log as. Is that right? Or?
Yes. There was a time when we followed game show compliance laws because we had to. You know, as the show evolved, it became very clear to everyone that this is a comedy show more than a game show. So the honest answer is I don't know how much that still plays a part because it's clearly subjective and the whole thing got so ridiculous. But at the beginning we did, and it was very strange. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, this lady by the wall.
So what's your dating life been like since you've had the show?
I hate to tell you. I don't know. It's not a good week to ask me that. I'm very busy. I'm really busy, which is great. I'm very busy, is what it comes down to. But you know, I'm on Tinder, I'm on Grindr. I don't give a I don't know. It's like it is for everyone else who's busy, I guess. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions? None? All right. That was depressing.
Guy right here with the glasses.
Have you ever booked a celebrity and filmed with them and then not used any of it?
Wait, what'd you say?
Have you ever booked a celebrity?
Booked?
Awkward follow from the last question. Is that
You did say booked, right?
I did. I said, have you ever?
I swear I heard I did. I'm not joking.
I swear I didn't say it. Have you ever booked
What
a
was the
celebrity
question?
and then filmed with them and not used any of it? For
Not
any
used
reason?
any of it?
Yeah, where it just didn't work.
Yes. He's a good friend of mine. It was my fault entirely. Nick Kroll. I know. I know. He's brilliant. I made the mistake with Nick, and it was second season and I was still learning about the show. I made the mistake with Nick of trying to do a Nick Kroll segment as opposed to having him come into my world, which we have since figured out is the only way to do this show. And you know, he is a brilliant sketch comedian, and it just didn't come together that day. It was 100 degrees outside, and I would like to have Nick on the show again, and he's amazing. But that is the one, I think. Yeah.
Right behind him.
Can you talk about your experience at Yankee Stadium with Madonna?
Yes, we can. For those of you that don't know, I was doing bits for Conan, Billy on the Street bits for Conan. Right when the Fuse show started, I ended up following Madonna around the world on her tour, and it ended with me ambushing her while she was rehearsing on stage at Yankee Stadium a few years ago. She was really, really great, and you know, you hear stories about any star like that. They act like this, they act like that. I'm a diehard Madonna fan going way back, but still, you never know. And I watched her rehearse a show. It was Labor Day weekend, so hot, outside at Yankee Stadium in the daylight. And I watched her rehearse a show that she'd been doing for months, right, with all of the dancers. And she insisted on rehearsing the entire show because New York meant so much to her. And she was worried about the acoustics at Yankee Stadium. It's a huge place. And I was like, anyone that says anything about Madonna, she works so hard. This many years into her career, she cares so much about the details, and she wasn't being a bitch about it, but when the set wasn't moving properly in a direct but not bitchy way, she let people know that it wasn't good enough and that it wasn't what it was the night before, and I was like blown away. I was like, mad respect for Madonna. You don't become Madonna without being like that.
Okay. Right up there, in glasses, maybe.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
My question is, when I watch a show, I'm always really surprised that like people sometimes don't know you or don't know the celebrity, or they're not really excited. Like, are there any people that does that get cut out, or people just really don't know these people?
People don't know. I mean, that's what I love. I mean, I don't know. It's true. It's all true. A lot of people ask about the Chris Pratt segment, where he's having the biggest year of his life. He's a huge Hollywood star, Jurassic World, Guardians of the Galaxy. He is a star, but to the average everyday person who doesn't give a shit or even watch TV or go see movies, it's like, F you, I don't know who you are. I'm going to pick up my kid. I'm going to my job. Like, I'm going to get lunch, what did we cut out of that? We didn't have a lot of time to shoot with him, but I may have cut out 3 clips where someone recognized him, but we cut out like 10 where they didn't. So the ratio stayed the same. And that's what I like about it. I mean, I like dragging these people around and having people not care. And weirdly, they like it too. Like, I don't know why? It's very weird.
Yes, this lady on the aisle.
So, what is your greatest Twitter accomplishment, either because of the reaction that you got, or you were just really happy with the tweet itself? What was your best?
Such a sad question. My greatest Twitter accomplishment. Oh, Leah Remini tweeted out the Scientology obstacle course with a hashtag for the name of her book. I'll let that stay right there.
Okay, way back there, this way in the aisle.
One of my favorite parts is the theme song. I was wondering if you wanted a theme song, or like, what's the story? Is there a longer version? Something like that.
The Diplo remix will be coming out. I wrote that theme song when the show was first starting, and here's a fun story. So I wrote that theme song. I thought it was really great, but I'm not a songwriter, so I sent it to Mark Shaman, who's like, I worship Mark Shaman. And he wrote back to me and said, there's nothing for me to do with this. You wrote it. This is really good. It should be this, right? And an executive from my old network hated the theme song when we delivered the pilot and told me that it was Fuse and that it wasn't Logo. And I said, F you. This is the greatest theme song anyone has ever written. You have no hit shows, and you're not going to tell me what's good and what's not good. And now, to this day, 5 years later, daily tweets to me about how good the theme song is. We're all Logo. Except back in the day, Logo never gave me a job either, so F everyone.
I think we got time for 1 or 2 more questions. This man right up top.
Hey, Billy.
Hello.
Hi. For a segment like the Mark Twain, Eddie Murphy segment, or the guy who was drawing Angelina Jolie in the park, how many times are you running those game shows or going through that to find the right person for that?
How many times do we film it?
Yeah, like, do you film it with multiple guests?
If it's a game I really like, I want to film it with a bunch of different contestants because you can never really tell on the spot what's going to work on camera. It's always amazing to me. Things that feel funny in the moment sometimes do not work when you watch it back. Sometimes things that you completely ignored that didn't feel funny are hilarious. It's just the way the camera picks it up. Or I don't know, I can't explain it. With amateur speed sketching, I don't know, I think we filmed it 4 or 5 times. And then there was one that we really loved, which was the one that aired. There was another one which we really liked, which was On the Fence, which is not going to make it in. Yeah.
Okay. Also, way up top.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
I'm a big fan. My dream job is to be a PA on your set.
Are you kidding?
That is my dream job. No, I've even
Do you know
emailed.
there's no set?
I mean on the street. I even been emailing with one of your. I saw you filming last summer on the street. Was so excited you stopped, took a picture of me. Thank you.
Sure.
But my question for you is, which award show? Because you mentioned in one of the past episodes that you would love to host an award show. So which award show would you like to host and why?
I mean, at this point, I'll take the Latino Grammys. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not popular enough to do that yet. But what was that?
You'd be amazing as an award show.
Thanks. This is what my life has come to. A room full of white people in Midtown encouraging me to host an award show. That was my dream, to be honest. It's happening right now.
I want to thank Billy Eichner for this wonderful talk.